And do you think it's easier to kick a bad habit or build a good habit? Or are they the same to you?
That's a great question. My instinct is probably kick a bad habit.
Think it'd be easier to kick a bad habit?
No, harder.
And do you
harder?
And do you focus on one and then the other, or do you focus on both?
Well, you have to kind of do both, because in order to kick the bad habit, you have to, again, plan and sustain change. So you can't just stop. It's like if you just try to stop doing drugs, you're not going to stop doing drugs.
Yeah.
It's gonna kick back in.
Right.
Welcome to the V-Shred Better Body, Better Life podcast, where we help you live your best life while working on your health and fitness goals. We're here to make your journey fun and inspiring.
What's going on? Welcome back to the V-Shred Better Body, Better Life podcast. Today, I'm your host, Vince Sant, and welcome to one of the first episodes of 2024. I'm super excited to have you here. And so I hope you had a good New Year's celebration and ate some good food and set some good goals. Obviously, New Year's fitness goals are a big piece of just people's resolutions, and that's a lot about what we're going to be talking about today. But we're doing something special because we have a very special guest here with us today. I want you guys to please welcome Dr. Drew Pinsky to the show. Dr. Drew is a board-certified internist and an addiction specialist. He has some very interesting insights to share on cravings and food addiction, even though we'll get into your take on food addiction
per se,
and just building healthy habits overall. And so if you're struggling with your weight, or you've been struggling with your weight for a while, for whatever reason that may be, and you have trouble with giving into cravings or sticking to good habits or kicking old bad habits, then stick with us as we break down some nice tips and tricks for you guys to take with you later on. And hopefully that serves you for the rest of your life. So, Dr. Drew, welcome.
Vince, good to be here.
Yeah. So why don't you just start off? I know I already introduced you. Why don't you give us a little bit of a background on yourself?
Which part? my workout life or my medical life?
Let's start back a little bit, your medical life.
Okay, so I'm an internist by training. I was teaching internal medicine for years and was actually running a medical service in a psychiatric hospital. All the medical problems, of course, or a lot of them were down in the drug unit, so I got very good at taking care of drug addicts and doing drug withdrawal, sort of medical withdrawals. And got more and more involved in the treatment of drug addiction, eventually ended up becoming the director of that program and doing that for about 25 years. So yeah, I've seen the human experience from all sides. I mean, it's something, I have this crazy experience that nobody gets anymore, right? It's just literally impossible to get it. I was doing ICU medicine, hospital medicine, outpatient medicine, inpatient psychiatry, inpatient addiction medicine, all simultaneously. Now each of those is a separate discipline. They don't even cross over.
Really?
You can't do outpatient medicine and ICU. You have to be a hospitalist. You have to be a intensive care specialist. I did all of it. And as a result, I've had this very broad experience in the human experience. And I just want to give that back now, however I can. I just want to just share that experience because nobody has the medicine and the psychiatric piece the way I had it for so many years.
And a lot of your experience is related to addictions, correct?
Addictions and mental health generally, yeah, sure.
Tell us a little bit about your experience with just addiction in general.
In terms of addiction and food, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I get nervous about the over deployment of the model of addiction particularly for behaviors. So there is such a thing as food addiction, there is such a thing as sex addiction. I just get worried that it's over applied. Also, there's a lot of colloquial use of dopamine in the common discourse.
Yes.
And dopamine is obviously a brain chemical, and I don't believe you feel anything when you have a dopamine hit, except the brain system that's there to give us a reward to increase the probability that a behavior will be repeated. So I call it the do it again part of the brain. That's what dopamine does. It stimulates that part of the brain that says, do it again, do it again. That's good for survival. Do that again. And if you have certain kinds of genetic predilections, that can really be quite
What's
intense.
an example of a do it again?
Cocaine is do it again.
Situation.
Cocaine, everyone that does cocaine, particularly crack, knows they're going to feel horrible after the first 5 hits and just feel worse and worse and worse until they get psychotic and are in the closet worried about the police outside. They know that for sure with the first hit. So if they were not responding to that do it again system, they would stop because they know where it's going.
Right.
But they can't because that part of the brain just takes over and says, do that again, do that again, do that again. Then there's the endorphin system, which is the liking part of the brain, right? There's a wanting system and there's a liking system. And liking is the endorphin system where it feels good. And people with food, people use that endorphin system a lot, right? If you are in pain, emotional pain, physical pain, lonely, tired, all these things.
What are you doing?
Yeah, you're
eating.
going to use that system. You're going to eat those Fritos and the ice cream, whatever, because it does is flood your brain with a certain amount of endorphin. And it also, because your brain says feeding is good, do that again. There is some do it again stuff. And the do it again component, if you're genetically set up for it, can get rather powerful. So you can get in a cycle of sort of compulsion. But most addictive, what we call addictive eating, is really kind of emotional eating to try to regulate. As you and I have discussed a few times, so much of what's going wrong in our metabolism is dysregulation. We have emotional dysregulation, we have autonomic dysregulation, we have hormonal dysregulation, and we can go a long way to stabilizing that with diet and exercise.
Is that where you would normally start with your, because actually we've talked about this before with what your first steps are. When you have someone come to you, where do you usually start with them?
When it's an addict and somebody comes to me, we start really simple. We go hungry, angry, lonely, tired. You get enough sleep. Make sure you're...
I love that. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Everybody remember that.
Yeah, hungry, angry, lonely. Halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And lonely is obviously pain, right? People, they feed the pain.
Yeah.
Anger is resentment and excuse making, and you don't want to do things because you're angry. Hungry, obviously, if you're dysregulated, like I have my own personal experience with carbohydrates, where I get going, I'll get hungry, and if I keep going, I'll just stay hungry. Yeah. I won't get satisfied. Hungry,
which I want to talk about.
We'll get to it.
Yeah.
And then tired. It's so important to pay attention to sleep. I've told you the story before. I was used to work in amongst the many different crazy jobs I've had, I worked in a locked dementia unit for a while. And when I first got there, I noticed a lot of them were men, and they all had pictures of themselves by their bedside where I could see they were captains of industry, car manufacturing, or they were admirals in the Navy. And so when I got to talk to the family, I thought, well, stress, they must be stressed out. Because obviously sympathetic hyperstimulation, adrenaline, not good for your body. It adds shear forces. And over the years, there was a lot more put on that, like stress is a killer. Yeah. Remember that?
Yeah.
The family all went, no, they weren't stressed. They loved their job. They never slept. No sleep. And now we do know that sleep is when the brain clears out some of these amyloid deposits and whatnot, and things that contribute to cognition problems.
And is sleep something that you have?
I was terrible. I was a workaholic, so I had consequences. One thing about it, real addiction, you create consequences from your behavior or your using. And I was sleeping like 4 or 5 hours a night.
You essentially had a work addiction?
Oh yeah. That went on for a long time, but and as you and I also have discussed, for a young person, you can tolerate pretty much everything, right? You can do that.
Anything.
I mean, you can, not without getting injured.
You go out and get some drinks, and you get hammered, and next day you're good.
You could go to work the next day, but as you get older, you better pay attention.
Yeah.
This is generally my message, is that you're hitting middle ages, you got to set a pattern of behavior that really establishes a wellness program where you're going to be hurting at the 7th and 8th decades of life. And this is really important people to know that. And my system, the healthcare system where I work, we're not going to help you with that. We are too busy taking care of sick people. We're too busy taking care of the people that didn't do that and are now sick as a result. We want you to maintain your wellness. We are not set up as a medical system to be a part of the wellness process. We just aren't. We're busy.
It's reactive.
Look, I have prostate cancer. When I sat down with my surgeon, I didn't want him to tell me anything about diet. I want him to do that surgery without a complication. And so all he had done, I said, how many have you done? 1,200. What's your complication rate? 0. I went, fine. Keep doing that. You can operate on me. I don't want him to tell me about carbohydrate metabolism. I want him to be a perfectionist with that operation. Yeah. And that's what doctors do. They deal with illness. When you want us to do that. The wellness part, that's what we're talking about now. And that's really has to be on the individual. And, as you mentioned, New Year is a good time to kind of raise awareness about this. The one thought I will have here repeatedly is consciousness, awareness is your numero uno step. Paying attention. Pay attention to what you're putting in your mouth. Pay attention to that hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Pay attention to your shoulders when they're hurting, like I should have done when I was lifting heavy weights and switching to something smarter. And pay attention to what happens, at the benefits you derive from these things too.
Yeah.
By the way, we didn't talk about this. This is another thing. If you focus in a bit on the benefits, it becomes its own motivating system. You're feeling better. You're feeling good. Let that nourish you and keep going.
Feel that.
Yeah.
Live in that. Yeah. And I love what you talked about, how when a patient comes to you, and you kind of just touched on it, is you just want them to be aware. You want them to become aware.
Awareness. And the other thing that I acknowledge is, I work in this world where people are overcome by these drives we call addiction. And we're just trying to change that. And change is hard. This is the thing that people are sort of deny in our culture, is how tough change is. Change is hard. You have to plan for it. You have to execute it, and you have to maintain it. And then your point about the new year is that most people, it sort of raises awareness, and people start planning and doing stuff. They don't maintain it.
Yeah.
And you said end of January. I'm used to people dropping out the second week of January.
Yeah.
And that's not okay.
Yeah. There's studies done on how long it takes people to drop off, and it's crazy how many people. It's like 80% drop off before week 3 or something like that.
That's right. That's what I thought. I thought I was
Crazy.
right about that. But you got to be aware of that and plan for that.
Yeah.
And having, one of the things we do in addiction is in the maintenance part is having somebody there coaching.
Yeah.
You call it a sponsor or a doctor or a therapist, whatever. There's people, other human beings. And one of the things I like what you're doing with the digital material is it becomes like a virtual. I responded to it very powerfully. Your videos and things. There's some. I don't know if you've always. How motivational you are. Have you always known that, or I've asked you that before because it's something.
I've been told.
Have you cultivated that, or you just?
I don't know. I think I think I watched my parents go through weight battles, and then I think I've just worked. I've worked with so many people. I've talked to so many people, and I've had people share their struggles with me so much at this point that. And I think I'm just also an empathetic person at heart. And
it's empathetic, and it feels patient in some way.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah, and patience is required because people are struggling. It's hard. We get it, but you better pay attention, guys. I'm telling you, we now, it's very clear that, after you hit middle of life, resistance training is one of the most important things to sustaining health, maintaining muscle mass, not falling when you're a lot older. Falls predict demise. They do, and it's not always just because of a head whack or a hip fracture.
You're talking literal falls.
Just collapsing, falling, tripping, all that stuff when you're older is it's a symptom of something coming. And you can keep that away by maintaining your muscle mass and your balance and things. And there's healthy ways to do that. And then the other thing is how much dysregulation is part of the story. As you get older, we let things go. We lose our muscle mass. We become overweight. We gain weight. You will gain weight, everybody. It just will happen if you don't pay attention. And that is a dysregulated state.
Yeah.
It's too much adipose, producing a ton of estrogen, not metabolically active.
Yeah.
It is a state of dysregulation and stress.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk a lot about inflammation. These days. This, when you get this adipose tissue up front here, that's an inflammatory deposit.
Yeah.
And
very hormone related.
Estrogen is up, testosterone is down. You and I have talked about how important testosterone is, and resistance training raises testosterone for men especially, but women need testosterone too. Testosterone affects the proteins that hormones are bound to, whether it's the sex hormone binding globulin or the thyroid binding globulin, and free hormone is very much determines what's metabolically active. And these things are extremely complicated, and they all interact with each other, but it spirals out of control if you allow it to, and you have to kind of bring it back with balance and regulation.
And you'd say it's safe to say that resistance training is probably a nice catch-all form to
numero uno.
Yeah,
it's number one.
And how has your resistance training? I know.
So my story.
How has your resistance training
So I
changed?
destroyed my shoulders, everybody. Yeah. I destroyed them by. So Vince and I are lucky because we are two guys that like working out. We like it. I can't get through my day without it. Your damn gym in here, I could not lift weights when I walk in there. I have to
First thing he did when he walked in, he did some tricep extensions and some bicep curls.
Yeah,
I was like, there we go.
To do it. I just don't know. I don't like time around a gym not being spent doing some time under tension. But time under tension is the key message here. Is that I went from being trained in the early 70s by these guys that was all about 6 to 8 reps, heavy weights. And when I was young, it was good. That was great. It felt great and maintained muscle mass and things. Then I destroyed my shoulders and I kept going with it. And slowly began realizing I have to change this. And I came upon your videos and I thought, this is what I've been told forever I need to do. But it's somehow you got through to me. This is the part I'm trying to figure out, is how you got through to me. That's that motivational piece I'm trying to figure out that you've got. It got through to me. I was like, of course, yes. And then I talked to one of your trainers in person. This is back to this idea about, again, having people help you sustain your change. It's a critical piece. Yeah. Whether it's somebody like Vince, sort of virtually reaching you, or you getting a trainer and having that person connect with you. It is some reason we need other humans. Again, in addiction recovery, we call it a sponsor, right? That person is always, you don't get a sponsor, you don't get better. It's really very simple. We need that feedback of another human being. Some of it's accountability, some of it's the emotional support, some of it is just things getting through to us. So your trainer got through to me.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, he got through to me on the topic because I was kind of resisting still. It's much more reps than I'm used to, and I didn't feel good.
Doesn't feel the same.
Didn't feel the same.
Right.
And he goes, I just started to focus on time under tension, and I went, it just cut through. I was like, of course, it's time under tension.
Someone says one thing a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And it makes all the difference.
And you may have been saying it on the videos, whatever, but I needed the human being telling me. And that changed everything. And I started getting satisfaction from it. And then by accident, I started kicking in the HIIT cardio, which I was doing intermittently, but still resisted. And I was traveling in France with a friend of mine, and we had some bands. That's all we had. And we went out into the vineyards and tied the bands up to the posts and things, and we're doing stuff, and it was just not enough. And we were like, we got to add these intensity. You've got to get more intensity. We got to add the runs. We got to add some push-ups. We got to add some intervals, exactly, and do multiple. And I responded amazingly, and I thought, I have to add this in. And it really added the intensity. So to me now, I've gone from this sort of, I guess it was pump I was looking for or something, to intensity. And the intensity has had so much benefit for me in terms of my metabolism, my sleep, everything, just better. I'm more, I would say this is it's certainly healthier for my age for sure, but it's a more regulated state, I think.
Yeah. And before HIIT cardio, were you doing any other forms of cardio?
Back in the day, when I wasn't pushing ridiculous amounts of weight, I would go run trails. And I immediately got hernias and needed hernia repair operations, and got back problems and knee problems. And that was, from all the repetitive,
the pounding. It's plyometric exercise.
And I would cheat too. I would go. I ran for 4 miles. I could eat whatever I want. It's like, it's like, so stupid.
I think that's a big piece of it. Is people they have this reward system set up in their head where they do this thing that might not even be the best form of whatever their specific goal is, because they should be doing this other type of exercise. And then they over reward themselves for this thing that they did, and they just ruin any kind of progress that they were going to see.
And it gets you in that dysregulated cycle.
Yeah.
It's just eating and running and eating and running. It's just this complete dysregulation. And a friend of mine, who's an orthopedist, caught my attention. I was doing most of that running in like my late 40s and 50s. And he goes, I'll see you on the operating table. I went, what? Come on. I only fell twice. I got a couple of falls. And he goes, you're running on trails? I'll see you in the operating. You're gonna break your ankle. It's gonna happen. And it stayed with me. And so I started looking for a reason to not do that.
Not might. Will.
He was so adamant about it, because at your age, it will happen. And I was like, okay.
That's scary.
Yeah. So, now I'm doing it. It's much less painful, and I'm getting much more out of it with the HIIT cardio.
Nice.
I'm really getting a lot.
It doesn't take as long.
It doesn't take as long. It's not as painful in the body, and it really just it is added a level of intensity to my workout that I just couldn't get any other way. That
you kind of probably been missing since lifting heavy.
Correct.
Yeah.
Forever. But I want to emphasize this notion of regulation. We are dysregulated when we're not paying attention to our diet, when we're not doing resistance training, when we're over stressing on our cardio. Those are dysregulated states for various reasons.
Yeah. And then we talked about like the reward system of going, and you would like go on a run and then you would reward yourself.
Yeah.
What is like the the reward system in the brain. How does that work?
We have a liking system and a wanting system, right? So we have an endorphin system that feels good when we do certain
lacking
things.
system?
I'm sorry, liking and wanting.
Liking and wanting.
So the endorphin or the morphine sort of opioid system is the feel good part, the liking part. And I think most food compulsions are really in that zone where we're feeling some sort of pain or loneliness or irritability
back to the
or
four
fatigue,
things.
hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And we are sort of medicating that by and do not underestimate the American food services system to create things that optimize that endorphin rush that we get. They
100%.
They're just doing their job, which is selling their product,
Yep.
and they are going to give you the most yummy, most rewarding, most endorphin, inducing chemicals they can. And so. And also pay attention to when you're doing that, by the way. I mean, is it just when you're watching the NFL games on Sunday or is it after, before bed? I mean, there's a behavioral... All the time. There are behavioral sort of cues and compulsions added to this. Just awareness goes so far in breaking some of this stuff. And particularly as it comes to the feel-good part. If you're dysregulated, you're looking to feel better. Right? There's feeling good. So there's liking and wanting, and there is also feeling good and feeling better. We want to feel better oftentimes. And also we want to feel good too. That's okay to want to do that. But I think food is more about feeling better. The wanting system is what I was describing earlier with the cocaine system, which is essentially the ventral tegmental cells in the part of the brain called the medial forebrain bundle firing into the nucleus accumbens. That's dopamine, and that is a part of the brain that says, do that again. You're not even aware of it. And it's not cravings, by the way. Cravings is a separate phenomenon. It is just a part of the brain where you find yourself doing things again.
And then how do cravings, that's a great segue.
Well, cravings are... when we're talking with drug addicts, I actually like it when they're having cravings because it tells them their disease is alive and well. They're not over it. They need to do active things to re-regulate, right? I guess we could do the same thing with food. I really never thought about it. But the food service, the food technology is there to give you the optimum feel good and the optimum craving.
Yeah.
It's a biology. They're going for that. And so cravings, is to me a sign of dysregulation. It's a sign that you need to pay more attention. That's it. And I get tons of cravings. If I get going with stuff, I'll crave. I appreciate it. It's hard. But I don't like that feeling, and I'd rather be just regulated and satisfied. And I can gratify things with, we had dessert last night.
Yeah.
Lots of it.
Yeah.
and I woke up hungry.
Right.
Really super crazy hungry.
No.
And I knew that would happen.
Yeah.
And it happened. And if I'd kept going, I'd be in this cycle of, gratifying and hunger. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Every time, like I'm never really, obviously I get cravings, but it's like once I eat that thing that I was kind of craving, now I'm craving it 10 times
Happens
more.
to me for sure.
Yeah.
That is for sure my
and people
system.
just keep giving into that, and so they never really kick that. And so you think that plays a big role in the formation of addiction
and the sustaining of it. We're using the word addiction, and we're using it
Loosely.
sort of loosely. We're using it kind of liberally, but for sure, this is all. It's the liking, it's the wanting, it's the feeling better, it's the cravings. It all it's a powerful biology we're trying to fight, and it settles down. It doesn't just go away. It settles. So I want to really emphasize this notion of regulating. I know you worry about people hurting their metabolism and trying to heal their metabolism. To me, I think jumping at healing misses this one step, which is re-regulate. If you re-regulate, it will heal.
And what's your take on like overeating and the?
I love it. I love overeating. What do you mean?
As far as like, would you say overeating is a sign? Or do you think
it's a sign? Right, it is a sign. It's a sign that something's not right.
Yeah,
but it's also you may be prone that way. I am certainly prone that way. I'm prone to overeating and having difficulty perceiving fullness, and I have to raise awareness about that.
So my question is, how do you overcome that?
I will cave into it once in a while,
right? Which I think is human, and nobody's telling you can't do that. You
know what it is for me? It's that I know that you have to know the benefits of not doing that, and you're going to feel so much better in a regulated state, and understand that by doing that, you're going to be dysregulated for a little while, and you're going to have to start paying attention. It's get back in a regulated state.
And then, why do you think people struggle so much to kick these bad habits?
Well, I mean, we're using the word habit, and so by definition, it's something that people are getting
Used to doing.
They're used to pattern with, and then I would say on top of that, change. That this is what we're all in denial about, is change is hard. So it's New Year's, you want to change, I'm going to do it. Yeah. So again, you've thought about it, you've decided to do it, you've executed it. Now you must sustain it. And the sustaining is the key part. And I would just add that you need structure, right? So like a dietary plan is a great way to do it. One of the things that we know about diets is most diets are pretty much equal in terms of their efficacy. So the diet you will do is the one I want you to do.
Right.
Structure plans are generally better. When people are fed, they lose weight. And so if you have structure, it tends to help people a bit.
And is that what's helped you?
It has helped me. Your dietary plan was very, very helpful. My wife's been in on it too. Having a partner with it can be helpful. Having support with these things. It's sort of the theme I'm getting into here, is that the maintenance part, which is what I worry about in the new year, is everyone bailing out. Is requires some sort of feedback. And again, virtual feedback is. Listen, we've been searching for this for a long time. People want these sort of less expensive ways of doing these things, and having a virtual mechanism for it. There's also, and everyone's different in terms of what they need too. I mean, for instance, you and I, in terms of going to do resistance training, we like it. We thrive on it. It's not a problem. There are people that either hate it or actually feel pain when they do it. It's painful to them. And you have to you have to educate people that there is something important there. And from my perspective, the thing I really want them to understand is that middle ages, like your 40s, particularly your 50s, this is a crossroads. You really have to start getting things together now.
Speaking from experience?
From experience, but also, I know what's coming. I take care of a lot of elderly people, and I know that resistance training is the number one way to reduce the risks down the road.
And it's a specific type.
Falls and muscle mass. Those are the two things that predict longevity right now. And then regulated states, and that's your diet. That's making sure you get I worry a lot about insulin dysregulation. I worry about testosterone dysregulation. I worry about women and estrogen and testosterone dysregulation. I worry about circulating levels of the various hormonal binding globulins and how they all interact with each other. And it's these cycles that we get into when we're in these dysregulated states that things go sideways. And as I've said before, in the medical system, we are not set up to deal with wellness. We're just not set up. We're too busy dealing with sickness, and that's
too
fine.
far gone. Not too far gone. I shouldn't say that.
No, we'd rather you not see us. We'd rather you not have. We do a certain amount of maintenance with illness too, like hypertension and diabetes and things, and we are trying to prevent the complications of those things down the road. But there's a ton of stuff you can do with wellness and
so those men and women who are in their 40s who feel like they're not feeling bad, they're not slowing down quite yet.
But I guarantee you've gained weight.
Yeah.
I guarantee you. I guarantee it. And that's not going to get better if you don't do something active.
Yeah.
And so raising awareness about what you're putting in your mouth, raising awareness about how you sleep, and are you getting adequate sleep? And is it proper sleep? Is the sleep hygiene correct? And paying attention to some kind of exercise. Again, the exercise you'll do is the one I'm most interested in.
Right.
But if you can get resistance training in there, and for men, it's even more important, right?
Yeah.
Because women, can get by with toning and sort of body weight maneuvers sometimes, but for men, we got to kind of pick up some weights typically.
Yeah.
And you'll lose that capacity if you let it go too long.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a patient. He was. Let me try to remember what he was doing. Oh, he had a lot of medical problems, and some of them could have been metabolically avoided if you'd paid attention many years ago, but we're into it now. And I was trying to get him to do some resistance training. He's 75 years old, and the best he could do was 2 pounds. That was it. Just not possible to go above 2 pounds just for some basic maneuvers. And I thought, wow, this is rough. I'm not sure how much benefit 2 pounds is going to do, but let's give it a shot. And it was awareness that even got him to that point.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then,
by the way, somebody had I don't want to divulge any confidences or anything, but somebody who should have known better, should have known about fitness.
Yeah.
Literally, he was adjacent to that world.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody should kind of know about fitness because, New Year's is the biggest. Fitness is like, I want to say it's on like 80%. It's so like they did a study on like New Year's resolutions.
Yep.
Fitness is in the top 5 for like 85% of people.
Probably most of the gyms make their whole business off the New Year.
It's crazy. So why don't people stick to it?
Well, it drives me crazy. It upsets my financial brain that people pay a fortune for gyms and then go and sign up for classes and then pay for a trainer,
buy a bundle of 12 sessions
and then don't attend to their diet and then do nothing and then don't do it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Your home, you can get things going there, much less expensive. With
that's a great point. I think a lot of it is people think they have to do all these things they don't have to do. If you don't want to go to the gym, don't go to the gym. If you don't want to lift weights, don't lift weights. We talk about resistance training. Resistance training isn't necessarily lifting weights. It could be body weight. It could be bands. And then same thing with like cardio. If you don't like doing cardio, don't do steady state cardio. Don't go running. If you hate jogging, if you hate biking.
But I think there's something even embedded within that point, which is that you will find something you do like doing. You can always find something. You really can.
Yes.
I mean, look at in my own journey. Even though I like working out, I like resistance training, I didn't like long multiple reps. I didn't like
right.
I didn't think, and then all of a sudden I went, I do.
I'm experiencing something similar with my triathlon journey now, or my Ironman journey, I should call it, because the first triathlon's in the books. But I hated cardio, hated it. So for the last 10 years of my life, didn't do it, because you don't have to do a bunch of cardio to stay in good shape. You can get it with resistance training, interval training, stuff like that. But then I started doing it because I wanted to do a triathlon, and now I've fallen in love with it. And so now I'm making my way into becoming this hybrid style athlete, I guess. But I wouldn't have found that out, that I enjoy that, without trying it.
What do you like about it?
I like that it challenges my mind more. I feel like lifting challenges my body. I feel like endurance, if I'm on mile 7 of a 12-mile run, I still have 5 miles left. I kind of got to dig deep in my brain to just get, because that's another 40 minutes of running after I've just ran for an hour. So I feel like it's more of a mind challenge rather than a body challenge.
And it's also it also, you get in a certain state. There's an
occasion. You do. You kind of get in a flow state a little bit.
Yeah, there's kind of a nice state you get into with that. But I have found it lately a little bit with some of the HIIT stuff too.
Yeah, no, I get it with lifting as well. And like I'm the opposite of you. I actually prefer higher rep lifting. That's kind of what's helped just reshape my physique, is when I stopped lifting heavy, because I was getting pretty strong, but I wasn't putting on size. And so once I started slowing it down a little bit, and I upped my total time under tension per workout, because there's like been studies done on like how much time under tension a muscle should have per set, and it's like between 40 and 60 seconds for optimal or something like that.
And there's different degrees of different kinds of twitch muscle that we all have.
Too. There's fast, slow.
But I'm starting to wonder if you can kind of really adjust that more than we know. I feel like I'm like the kind of, you can enlist other kinds of muscle. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not, and it feels good.
The combination of explosive style and then also slow and controlled to work all the different muscle types of fibers.
The slow and the fast twitch. Yeah.
So that's something that's really helped me. But I want to ask you, what is your take on why people can't? There's all this information out there now, and there's all these sustainable ways of getting in shape. Why is it that people still fall off the wagon week 2?
Well, the glib answer is change is hard. Okay, that's the easy answer. The other thing is they don't plan for the maintenance phase. They're always surprised that they drop off. They don't see it coming. And so I think to understand that that's going to happen if you don't put things in place in order to maintain whatever that is for you. And I would argue that feedback from another human is often a critical piece. And no one ever adds that. They really don't put that in there.
What do you mean by feedback from another human?
Like having a trainer of some type, something, someone that you're accountable to, somebody that's supporting you, somebody that's giving you some feedback.
Yeah.
It can be through a virtual system, or it could be a real person.
Right.
And
that also adds another piece to it of like following through.
It is that accountability piece, but I think people think it's just that. It's more than that. There's something about the support of another human being that keeps us on a road of change. And the other thing is awareness. To me, just being aware plays a huge role in these things sustaining themselves. Being aware of what you're doing and being educated about what's going to happen if you don't. How do you create motivation, right? It has to have its own sustaining feeling to it. As you get through it and into it, you feel better, but you have to understand why you're doing it, what the goal is and what the risks are if you don't do it. And most people are not really aware of it. They just don't quite get it. And they will tell themselves, who am I trying to impress? I went through a phase like that. Who am I trying to impress? And it's like, forget it. I'm past my prime, whatever. This is a natural part of aging. Yeah, it is. There is going to be some stuff, I promise. But even within that, there's way to optimize it that are, I can't emphasize this really enough, that we're coming to an awareness now, I think, of just how important these things are, and how we have not been attending to this for a long time. And you don't have to be fanatical about it. It really is just about following a plan, being awareness, having awareness, not allowing the compulsions and addictions to step in, planning for change, executing change, sustaining change, and realizing that there is benefit down the road. I'm a little more mystified, frankly, by people who are doing it and gaining benefit and feeling reward from it and not wanting to. I get compulsed about continuing when I start feeling really the benefits. I'm feeling good. Then I flip out a little bit about falling back. Some people just give up.
Yeah.
And if you're one of those people, again, plan for it, be aware of it. There's got to be things you can put in there. I think you said, play games with yourself a little bit. You have to work with your own personal psychology, and everybody's very different with these things. If you hate it, how do we find something that you do like? As you said, there's usually something in there you'll like.
Mm-hmm. And then how do you think goal setting plays a role in all of this?
Goal setting is different for different people. I worry about goal setting because it suggests people, now you're there and you can stop, or now you're there and now what's your next goal?
Right.
Your goal.
But the reward system of hitting a goal,
it can be helpful to some people. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you shouldn't have goals.
Right.
I'm saying it's like why we don't have goals in Alcoholics Anonymous. We just say, today you're sober. And so that's the same thing with diet and exercise. Today you're working out. Today you're doing your program. Today you're maintaining. And what's great about that with food is you don't have to be perfect. You just have to get back in line again and try to stay regulated. You want to go out and have pizza, whatever, just by all means. I want people to live. This is very important to me. People that are, these guys that are living in bubbles with, a team of scientists working on them.
Not even say the word.
Yeah, biohacking.
Oh,
word?
yeah.
I hate that word. It just doesn't make even sense to me. It's like, you'll notice the word I like is regulation.
Yeah.
Mostly because I think I've been working in the world of emotional dysregulation and autonomic dysregulation forever. And it's why people do drugs. They're emotionally dysregulated. Their nervous system is, their emotional system is dysregulated. Their nervous system is dysregulated, and they're looking for relief. Same thing we do with food, right? Same thing. We do it all the time. We're also looking to feel good, right? Sometimes we just want to have fun and feel good. Do that. But if you do that all the time, you're not going to feel so good. It's going to take more to feel good. This is where you get in the addictive process.
Right.
But what was I saying about the...
Well, I was going to ask, how do you rewire that? How do you...
the rewiring is a tougher call. It's achieving some state of regulation, right? And if you could, on the emotional side, the way we think of it is emotions become too prolonged, too intense, too negative, right?
Too prolonged, too intense, too negative.
Right. And if you can sort of start to fill that void, what we call it, with other people, with support, with, just feeling good today. It's one day. It's why we say one day at a time. Setting a goal, I'm going to be sober for 6 months. Overwhelming. It overwhelms people. So from my perspective,
that's super interesting, because I feel the same way with like when someone has a 100-pound weight loss goal. Very overwhelming.
Just work on what maybe you and I should be talking about what people should have goals on a daily basis.
Yes.
My goal is to get in the gym.
Yes.
Do the best or to follow my diet plan today, or at least have breakfast and lunch on the plan. Maybe I want to screw up a dinner or whatever. I'm going out, whatever. Fine. But don't maintain denial. I mean, don't distort. We play tricks on our own brain, right? That are not good. We're like, oh, I'm fine. I'm doing great. And you look back, you're like, really?
I worked out hard today. I deserve this cheat meal.
I've been there. And But I think, for me, again, coming from the addiction world, the goals, like I'm going to stay on my plan today. I'm going to do my, arms and shoulders today.
Yep.
I'm going to, and it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yep.
You just, it's about changing your life. It's about living a certain kind of life on a regular basis. And to me, the way I think about my workouts and diet, well, workouts mostly, I think of it as almost like hygiene. Like I shower and I work out, and that's every day. I shower and I work out. That's it. And if I don't work out, okay, well.
So would you say like habit stack those? Because I know there's a lot of stuff around habit stacking.
Tell me about that. This sounds like biohacking to me.
Well, no, it's more like if you're trying to adjust your lifestyle, you're trying to start, I don't know, eating healthy. When you go, it's like when you wake up to brush your teeth, you drink an 8-ounce glass of water.
Yes.
So it's a habit that you're already doing. You stack with another healthy habit.
No, I love those things, and I call those like cognitive, sort of games, like or adjustments or frames, reframes, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Today, my framing is, my frame is I drink a glass of water when I brush my teeth. So that's now part of brushing my teeth.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that is my frame on working out. I shower, I shave, and I work out. And if I don't work out, it's not the end of the world, but I'm going to not feel like I've really done my daily routine.
And your workouts at this point, you already, I think this is a big thing that people need to make a shift of. You don't need to, it's not motivation, because you can't rely on motivation. And I think a lot of people rely on motivation. And I think that's why they fall off the wagon.
I think it's more awareness. Awareness to me, it seems to be the missing ingredient. If you're aware and not just
the motivation will fade. You're aware that you're going to hit a wall. You're aware that you're going to have a tough day.
What you're doing when you're putting what are you putting in your mouth?
Yeah.
Just what was that? Was it just something you pulled out of the cookie jar, or was it did you go to the vegetable drawer and what did you just do? What happened? Or same thing, awareness with the what I'm doing during the workout. Am I paying attention when I'm going through my workout, or am I just mindlessly doing it?
Right.
Awareness has a big role to play here. So back to your question about rewiring, which I did not answer because it's hard. Is that cells that fire together wire together? Okay, that's the euphemism we say in the sort of psychiatry and addiction medicine. A more perhaps sort of colloquial way of saying that, habits rewire. So doing things repeatedly, and then the wiring goes in, right? And so
there's been studies on how long that takes.
It takes a long time.
Yeah,
it takes a long time. Brain grows slow. But the more the wiring is set, the more ingrained it becomes.
And do you think it's easier to kick a bad habit or build a good habit? Or are they the same to you?
That's a great question. My instinct is probably kick a bad habit.
Think it'd be easier to kick a bad habit?
No, harder.
And do you harder? And do you focus on one and then the other, or do you focus on both?
Well, you have to kind of do both, because in order to kick the bad habit, you have to, again, plan and sustain change. So you can't just stop. It's like if you just try to stop doing drugs, you're not going to stop doing drugs.
Yeah,
it's gonna kick back in.
Right.
And I think, again, obviously, addiction is a very extreme example of this, but it fits for this model a bit too, for wellness and dietary management, which is that you have to stop, and then you got to change, and then sustain, and that requires some awareness and planning.
Yeah, and I think another part of the issue is there's seemingly so many things that there's so many different things affecting someone's fitness journey. It feels like there's a million things that you're supposed to be doing, and so it becomes this overwhelming thing. And it goes back to what we talked about with
keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
Hungry,
take it by
angry,
today.
Lonely, tired. Today I'm working out. Today I'm I'm somebody that loves working out. Look what it took me. It took me 3 months to get my act together right. You were advising. I had one of your trainers, and I had your videos, and I was doing most of it.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't doing all of it. And this is somebody that likes working out.
Yeah.
And by the time I capitulated to the full spectrum of what you were recommending, guess what? It was a lot better.
Yeah.
And I'm all the way in now.
Yeah. No, and I'd like your take on, so one of the things that I talk about a lot is focusing on controllable factors rather than non-controllable
Very
factors.
Important.
Because it's a little bit different with, I'm sure, with like alcoholics and drugs and stuff.
Serenity prayer. God, grant me the wisdom to change the things I can and let go of the things I can and know the difference.
Yeah.
That's not the exact prayer, but that's essentially what they're saying. Be able to take care of the things I know I can change.
Right.
Let go of the things I know I can't, and be able to see the difference.
Right.
That's a lot.
Right. And because a lot of people focus on, like, I think weight loss is a non-controllable factor. You don't control how much weight you lose, but you do control the things that drive weight loss.
This is you're talking my language, because that when we talk about healing metabolism, you don't just go heal metabolism. You re-regulate.
You do a bunch of things.
You re-regulate, and
Right.
then that heals the metabolism.
Right. And you take that a day at a time. You take that an hour at a time.
Yeah.
How much water am I drinking today? What food am I drinking today?
Something we and I have not talked about is that I beat myself up a little bit when I fall short.
You?
Oh yeah.
I'm kidding.
And so, but I'm very accustomed to it. It doesn't bother me that much. But some people, when they beat themselves up, they become fatalistic. They get depressed. They really cave into it. So if you are somebody that beats yourself up, either again, find something more nourishing to do with that energy, whether it's, again, other humans figure large into all this stuff. They really do. Close relationships, having the support of other people. It's just critical in all of this. So if you are beating yourself up, reach out to somebody. And if you are beating yourself up and it's just one of those things, then get over it and move on, like I have to do, do every day when I beat myself up.
That's probably one of the reasons people who can't make it through New Year's fitness resolutions, that's probably one of their biggest fallbacks.
Beating yourself up?
Yeah.
And that probably has many different versions, right? It goes all from resentment to anger to I'm not worth it, or I always screw up. Who knows what kind of self-talk you get into. Again, back to awareness. Be aware of your self-talk. Be aware of what you're saying to yourself. And, back to knowing the difference between what you can control, what you can't. You can control your self-talk a bit. And it's a lot of self-talk is not real. It's not realistic. It's from something way back where you got that ingrained. And back to the wire. See how this all relates. It's all one big regulatory system. And back to the wiring. Now, if you get out of the habit of being so negative with yourself and thinking more positively, that will wire in.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying do daily affirmations or anything like that. I'm just saying
although those can be super helpful
for some people, fine.
Yeah.
But some people pray too. Prayer can be very, very helpful.
Yeah.
And that's a habit, right? And that wires in certain kinds of feelings and thoughts.
So these are good things to do. What would you say are some of the things to avoid?
Well, starving yourself, that never works. That's just, you're going to eat. Your brain will make you eat. And so starving. Now, managing your hunger, I get that. If you have to sort of, like I said,
hunger is important. Hunger cues are important.
They're important, but we all have different relationships with hunger, different manifestations of hunger. And again, as I said, for me, I know if I'm gone a little sideways on the diet, I'm going to have more hunger on the other side, and not to give into that hunger that day. Right. But generally,
and that stems from awareness.
But in terms of things to pay attention to, let me think about what were you saying? Things to avoid?
Yeah, just like when you're making that resolution, what are your things that you make sure if you had not been on this journey the last couple of months and you were starting in New Year's, what are the things that you're trying to avoid so that you don't slip up?
See, I don't think about it that way. I think about putting the proper structure in place so I can sustain it.
So maybe that's one of them, is not to focus on the negative and the possible failure, and to focus on the positive outcome.
Yes, I think planning for failure is a bad idea. If you've had multiple failures, this is, again, I'm using the addiction model a lot here, even though I've said we shouldn't use it too liberally. I'm using it a lot. But we always tell the addicts is don't use if you have a history of failure and going back, stop using your brain. Use somebody, listen to somebody else. Listen to Vince, listen to a trainer, listen to somebody, and let that happen. Let it in. It's hard, people. It's hard.
Yeah.
They're so used to,
just hard on themselves, and
they're also afraid. They're afraid of closeness and things. There's a whole different thing there when people have trouble trusting other people, tolerating the closeness, accepting their support, that kind of thing. But in this area, it's not as vital as some of the other more emotional work that people need to do. Just your brain may have sabotaged you a million ways. Bring a satellite nervous system into the game.
Yeah. That kind of goes in line with one of the things that I like to talk about, is to talk to yourself like you would talk to if you're my best friend, how am I going to talk to you? That's how I should talk to myself, because people are hard on themselves.
Oh yeah.
People talk really down to themselves. I don't think
they can do that properly without actually talking to another person.
Maybe not.
What you can do.
And that's great insight.
Yeah. I think what you can do is talk to yourself the way Vince would talk to you.
Yeah.
Like I could do that. But how I talk to myself is how I talk to myself.
Right.
And that's
right. You
pretty
can't really
bad.
fake. You can kind of say different stuff, but do you believe it?
But if I have a close relationship with you and I trust you and I go, okay, what would Vince do here? What would he say? Then, yeah, I'm in. Like I told you, you changed my whole outlook. I have to have this shoulder procedure done. You changed my whole outlook on that just by going, I'm going to give you a program. I'll settle that. It's like, yes, I would never have done that for myself. And in a billion years, I would have been like, oh, crap, I'm going to lose it. It's going to be over. I'm going to be atrophied in bed with my stupid shoulders. And you just said, no, we're going to find a program. We're going to work it out. And I'm like, yeah, good. Let's do that.
Yeah. No, I'm excited for that because you said 2 weeks off, 2 weeks nothing.
2 weeks off, 6 weeks of real pretty no
very
upper body,
minimal
upper body
minimal
stuff.
and then you start building on top of that.
Yeah.
And modification.
And then, you know, it's going to be really interesting is, as the pain, allegedly, supposedly the pain will be better, how do I not do my old thing of drifting back towards the heavy weight? How do I not do that? That's actually a concern of mine.
Yeah.
Because I've been with good trainers over the years and I drift. This is back into that sustaining thing again. You have to, for me, what it was I wasn't getting that much out of the training. I was seeing a trainer once a week or something and then trying to follow his plan throughout the week, and I just didn't do it. So I didn't have enough connection with that person. I also had not gone all the way in the way I have with your suggestions.
Gotcha.
I'm all the way into the intensity now and getting a lot out of it.
Yeah.
And so it's, again, becomes self-sustaining, self-rewarding.
Yeah. I was going to say, we talked about things to avoid. What would you say
for the new year stuff?
I want to ask the opposite. What are your best tips for anybody listening?
Well, let me do a little more on things to avoid too, because we do all kinds of other stupid stuff in the new year. We drink too much. We we give ourselves.
Luckily, the holidays are kind of over, so that's kind of behind
I get
us.
it, but you can get some momentum with that stuff if you're not careful. And as I've said, I want you to live. I want you to have a life. I don't want you to live in a bubble. I want you to live.
Yes.
So a life in a bubble is not living. It may be 100 years of not living. So why do that? It's silly to me. Just be careful. Awareness again. Tips in terms of dealing with the new year. I'm laughing because my tip is usually don't make New Year's resolutions.
Is it?
Yes.
Is it?
It usually is New Year's resolutions because they never work.
Yeah.
And I'm saying something a little different today, which is you can make them if you plan for that, what it needs to be sustained.
Yeah.
Don't be unrealistic about this. Let's really do it properly this time.
Yeah.
And not just declare the resolution. Let's sustain the change.
And so what are some of those things? What are some examples of the things that they need to prepare for?
Well, structure. Okay. You need structure, whether that's a meal plan or some sort of structure is really important. Some sort of agreed upon, again, people don't like to say the word diet, but some dietary plan, some whether it's body type or whatever the one you'll do is. Body type is a great option. It's easy, it's simple.
We talked about this before we started this episode about and I think you actually mentioned it on this one. There was a study done on all the different types of diets, and ultimately what they found was doesn't really matter aside from being fed. Right? That's the one. But aside from that one, none of them really made any significant difference between one another. It was just what can you follow? What can you stick to? The one you'll do.
And again, so the body types are real easy. So a way some people can get their head around. So do that. The other thing is when I've seen all the data on being fed, it always makes me feel like structure is useful. That's really all feeding is a structured plan. And so follow a plan. You use a dietary plan. Go with it.
No guesswork.
No guesswork. I mean, there's a lot in food in terms of the culture and love and how we take care of each other, nurturing and stuff. I get that. Let all that happen. You can still do all that stuff, but try to get a regulated state going, with a steady state. The homeostasis is the body's healthiest state. And when you are going, drifting one direction or another, you are dysregulated.
Yep.
And so back to tips. So what can I tell people to do? Plan for it, a person, structure with the diet, the self-talk thing we discussed. Let somebody else talk to you and sort of build that into your thinking about yourself and your ability to be successful. Find the exercise you will do. It doesn't all have to be in a gym. It's just do the thing you will do.
A lot of our clients don't go to the gym at all.
My wife doesn't really need the gym. She does your body weight stuff.
Yeah,
and I've done the body weight stuff too. It's good.
My dad lost 50 pounds on our body weight stuff.
It's good.
Yeah.
He looked great. I saw him last night.
Yeah, he's weighing less than he did in high school.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a high school football player, and he weighed more than he weighs now.
I didn't ask him what his position was. I was going to do
I
that.
believe he wasn't a lineman, but he was a bigger.
He looked like a tight end or something.
He was a bigger
receiver.
position for sure. But yeah, and he was on blood pressure medicine, and he's off of that now. He never thought he'd be off of that. He actually told me one time, he said that he was one more failed diet away from just giving up and just accepting that he was going to be.
Let's talk about hypertension for a second. And some people can do that, right? Especially when they're significantly overweight.
Mm-hmm.
They will oftentimes get off meds. I have a real genetic thing, and I finally had a doctor look at me and said, "Look, you can only outrun and outlift and outdiet your genetics so long. Eventually, your genetics win." And I thought, because I should have been on blood pressure medicine earlier than I was, because I was always just not where I should be. It's really not good for your arteries to be under that stress for long periods of time. And so there are some of us that it is just a genetic thing, and it's everywhere in my family. It's just no matter how skinny or fat.
How many people does that affect, do you think, nationally
this
or worldwide?
kind of genetic essential hypertension?
Because I don't want people to think that they have that and that's the reason.
Yeah,
because I feel you're probably a more unique case.
It's not that it's more unique; it's that a lot of people are overweight, right? And a lot of overweight people have low blood pressure. This is something that people don't understand. Very obese people can have very low blood pressure. It's not that uncommon. But I have noticed that most people, I would argue, their body hits a certain level of adipose, and it just all of a sudden you'll see the pressure go up. And those are people that for sure you can get off the meds. And are you that person or not? I would say if you're somebody who was gaining weight and then all of a sudden your doctor started talking to you about blood pressure, as opposed to somebody like me who was keeping my weight down, running, doing everything, and I still had hypertension, it's like, okay, those are two different situations.
Right.
I would say, we know obesity is a big problem in this country, and so most of it is probably that.
Okay, and so talking about you specifically, what are your 2024 goals? I know you said you hate New Year's resolutions.
Well, my goal is to a lot of things in my life are organized the way that we organize recovery from addiction. People always ask me, my wife and I have been together 40 years, like, what's the secret? And I go, today it's good. So if you're good today, you're probably going to be good tomorrow. And so I focus on today being happy and making sure I'm engaged properly with her, doing my workout, doing my intensity, sleeping right, getting the diet right today. And I have many days. There are many days when she and I fight, or we're not spending enough time together.
Not every day's perfect.
Or many days when I screw up on the diet.
It's about overall consistency.
Staying in some state of regulation.
80-20. I love the 80-20 rule.
80-20 be great. I'm not sure I stay quite there. I'm probably more like 70-30, to be honest. And that's good enough for me. I mean, it's good. I could do better, so that'd be my goal. Do better. Get more in the 80-20.
So do you think that 70-30, 80-20 is better than, like, if somebody's going from unhealthy lifestyle, doesn't work out, and they're like, I'm going to make a change. It's New Year's. Do you think going cold turkey, straight in 100% into this new fitness journey is better?
So
or
many
do you
different kinds of people. I'm extreme. So yes, that would be my way of doing it. If you're not like that and you
burn yourself out.
Yeah, I don't want you to burn yourself out. I don't want you to feel, elation, pink cloud of elation, and then all of a sudden I'm shit. I'm not working it. It's not working for me. So it depends on you. Read your own awareness. Read your own psychology, what works for you, and play with your own psychology. Lean into it. Don't try to fight it. What
do you mean by lean into it?
In other words, if you're somebody like me that likes to do it all at once, do it. If you're somebody that needs to kind of walk into the shallow end first, by all means do that. There's not one best way to do it. The best way, again, this is my constant refrain.
Comes back to diet, comes back to exercise.
The best way is the one you'll do. That's the best way. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll pick that one. And then also be honest with yourself if you're stalling with it too. You can't just, half measures are not going to work. You're going to have to go, like, again, look what it took me to get to the proper intensity with the workout. It took 3 months. I'd be screwing around before I got where I was like, okay, this is now I know where I'm supposed to be. I get it.
And so when 2024 hits,
for me, it's to stay with that intensity. So I'm sitting here thinking, what's staying in the way of it for me? And for me, travel and time zones get in the way,
and the million things that you
schedule
do.
gets in the way. But to try to keep it a priority and do it today, and back to awareness, lean into pay attention to how good it does feel and how much it's done for me.
Everybody who's probably listening you're going to need your own journey. I love the quote, run your race, because I mean, there's all these other people, especially with the social media era. You look online and you see everybody's highlights. You see everybody in great shape and losing a bunch of weight and progressing in life in all areas. And in reality, you need to, first off, those are their highlights. They're not posting their lowlights.
Yeah.
Second off, who cares? Do you. Run your race. Focus on you. Stop looking over there. Do your thing.
It's a really important point.
Focus on your own happiness.
To emphasize, because I think a lot of what's kind of out there in fitness and diet is like, we have the plan for you. We have the thing that's going to work for you. You guys have so many different options that, I was able to, I know that's, and she picked her thing. And you should have options. You should find them. There's no right way to do it.
There's no one size fits all.
Yeah.
There's no one size fits all.
I think unfortunately there's sort of a lot of, what's the word, where there's a lot of dogmatism in health and fitness. I mean, there's certain dogmas, which is you need to do something and you need to start soon,
right,
and you just sustain it. But beyond that, as we've been sort of keeping it simple with just sustain, just pay attention, just be honest with yourself, and just plan, just use other people. Those are true and simple, and do that.
And I would rather somebody like what we talked about as far as like going cold turkey. I would prefer somebody who has a history of falling off the wagon to not go 100% balls to the wall.
I think that's probably accurate.
I would prefer that they kind of start a little bit slowly, like you said, dip their toe in the water.
You can hurt yourself, and it can be painful, and they just forget.
What I've seen is people usually burn themselves out because they go from not eating healthy, not working out, not giving up part of their day because they're going to prioritize sleep, not giving up like pop and drinking water instead, and they do all this stuff, and then by the end of week 2 they're miserable.
Extremes
and their
don't usually
bodies
work.
are all stressed out. And so I usually find that recommending, like, I mean, that's one of the main things that we preach is sustainability. It's like the main thing that we preach.
Well, extremes don't work, and I'm sort of an extreme person. Even I can't do that.
And being an extreme person, what's your experience been working with us here at V-Shred?
You have you've reached me, which is what I'm kind of probing. I'm like, how did you do that? I'm trying to figure that out. Why did you guys reach me so effectively? Because I want other people to be reached. I want other people to benefit from this too. And you got me to turn to a form of exercise that I was aware of, never fully capitulated to, and is much more appropriate to my age, and sort of sustaining into. I think I'm going to keep this workout going for about 20 years. That's my plan. I have to be careful that I take rest periods. Again, I worry about my schedule and all that kind of stuff, and I worry it's going to take me away from my workouts. So I just work out every day that I can. And then when it does take me away, I'm not so freaked out.
Do you get good sleep?
Do I get good sleep? Not lately.
Not last night. I know none of us got good sleep last night.
I didn't get good sleep last night. I didn't get good sleep the night before, so I'm sort of messed up by that. But it really bothers me. Let's put it this way. I do make it it's something we have not talked about is prioritization. I do make it a priority. I do make sure I do pay attention to it. That's part of paying attention is prioritizing. But that's important. Sleep hygiene, pay attention to it, get it right. And my assumption is that if I get my diet right and I get really right with my workouts, that the sleep will kind of take care of itself if I leave adequate
100%.
time for it.
When I'm eating right, when I'm getting my workouts in, because I track my sleep every single night. I'm a big fan of the Oura rings, and that's not a paid sponsor. I'm just a fan of them.
I probably should start that because like everything, I resist stuff, and so that's something I've been resisting.
Maybe I'll have to get you one.
Then I would do it.
They're pretty life changing.
Well, the good news is once I start taking direction from somebody, I take the direction pretty well.
Yeah. Well, cool. Is there anything?
Did we miss anything? I'm sure we did. We talked about so much stuff, you and I.
I know.
And we sort of glossed over some of the mechanisms of regulation and how diet can help regulate. I find it kind of, I don't like talking about it because it is so complicated, and to really do it justice, you can't really do it without discussing math and stoichiometry and things. And it just, people aren't interested in that. They just want to know, how do I get this right? And I think awareness of, in particularly as we age, the testosterone and the estrogen, progesterone. One thing we didn't talk about for women, there are plenty of natural ways to help stabilize that stuff, but there are times when you need to see the doctor. And a lot of women get labeled as depressed in the perimenopausal period.
Remember talking about this?
They're rarely depressed. They're usually it's usually the hormones. If you're properly exercising, properly sleeping, properly paying attention to your dietary plan, and you're still having a lot of these sort of symptoms, and it usually sort of feels like mood. It feels like a mood problem. It may be time for hormone replacement. And do not forget testosterone. It is a really important hormone for women that is left out of the equation. And back to the resistance training, that will help raise it in women as well as in men. And for men, I think we are aware that that's an important hormone.
Men are much less resistant to resistance training.
Yeah, and raising that testosterone is a key part of maintaining muscle mass, which is a key part of sustained health.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, cool. And if anybody out there is wanting to get that stress lifted off of them and they do want to work with a coach like Dr. Drew has, we do have a team of amazing coaches who are ready to work with you right now. It is the new year, so we are busy, so make sure that you guys are taking advantage. If we do have any slots available, there should be a link somewhere around here. Click the link, book yourself a free call with us, and let's see if working together is the right move for you. But Dr. Drew, thank you for being on here.
Thank you for creating this, because I think it's an opportunity to really get this. We just have a problem in this country with our wellness.
Big time.
And it's not a medical problem. It's not a health problem. Don't expect the healthcare system to manage this. This is going to be something else, and it's on each of us.
Food's only getting unhealthier.
Oh man, they want us to eat that stuff.
Yeah.
They're going to do what they got. They'll do anything to get us to eat it.
Yeah.
I sometimes look at the sort of the health food bars and things, and I think, oh man, that's just sugar and spice. And
yeah. You look at the ingredient list, and
my goodness,
it's 6 lines long. Yeah, it's every name you can't pronounce.
It's just getting you to eat. Getting you to eat it, and know that eat real foods.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Just eat real foods.
That's a good closing sentence.
Yeah.
Eat real foods.
Yeah. Not stuff that's in wrappers and boxes, things like that necessarily.
Yeah.
So,
well, awesome.
Man, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Well done.
This was fun.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of V-Shred's Better Body, Better Life podcast. Whether you're doing one of our programs, taking our supplements, or just doing things on your own, tune in every week for exclusive content with Vince, V-Shred trainers, and special guests as they share valuable tips around motivation, workouts, food, and living a healthier lifestyle. See you next time.